Hi guys, in this video I will be going over paper 3 or component 3, which is people and environmental issues. And this first topic is people and the biosphere. So I'm just going to run through some of this really quickly with you. And then in the subsequent videos, I'll go over the other elements of this topic, which are forests and then consuming resources. So please make sure that you press the button at the bottom to like and subscribe. So a biome is a large-scale ecosystem that has similar temperature and rainfall. So we can find biomes across the world, and we have been, us geography teachers have been teaching you biomes since about year 9. So we know that the biomes run from the equator, and we normally run northwards because we've got more land in the northern hemisphere. So we start with tropical rainforests, then we go to savanna, and then we go to desert, and then we go to our climate. We leave out the Mediterranean climate, then we go to deciduous woodland, then coniferous woodland, and then we end up in the tundra, which is in the poles. So they are our big biomes. Then we've got an ecosystem in itself is a community of plants and animals, and a biome is just a very large ecosystem. So some things that have an impact on where the biomes can be found, and the first one is temperature. And temperature is directly related to latitude, and when it talks about latitude, it means where it is in relation to the equator. So is it at the equator at a low latitude, in which case it's going to be very hot, or is it near the poles, in which case it's at a high latitude and it's going to be very cold. So the biomes are directly related to those, and we've generally got more productivity where it's warmer, although we don't obviously in the desert because it's dry, but we'll get to that in a minute. So temperature has a huge impact and latitude has a huge impact. So the second one is precipitation. Now this links to Unit 1, climate, because precipitation doesn't, there's not a straightforward link between latitude and precipitation. It depends on the pressure zones that we're in. So what we've got here is it's linked to high and low pressure. So when we have high pressure over the tropics, it's dry, so we have a desert. And when we have low pressure over the equator and the mid-latitudes, that's us, we have tropical rainforest at the equator and we have deciduous woodland at the mid-latitudes. And then as we go further north, the rainfall gets less and the temperatures get less, so we end up with coniferous woodland and tundra biomes. So there are two large-scale factors that have an impact on the biomes. Right, the second thing here is local factors. Okay, so local factors have an impact on whether the biome will be at its maximum growth, basically. So if we're talking about tropical rainforests, all areas of the world do not have the same tropical rainforest. It depends on local factors. So they're all more or less the same, but there are limiting factors in terms of local factors. So the first one is rock type, and rock type will have an impact on the acidity of the soil, on the amount of minerals and nutrients in the soil, etc. So rock type's an important local factor, and that can be a limiting factor to what grows. The next one is water availability. So you could have a forest that's built right next to a river or on the coastline, in which case it may get flooded, and therefore it might be especially adapted, like a mangrove on the coast, or it mightn't grow as many trees because the roots might get flooded, etc. So that is water. Then altitude, and we know that as we move up a mountain for every 1,000 meters, the temperature decreases by about 1 degree or 1.5 degrees. So altitude, if we go up a mountain in a tropical area, we'll have much less vegetation because it's colder. So they are local factors. And then your next little bit here that you need to know is that what is biotic and what is abiotic. So the biotic elements of the rainforest are the living organisms, like the plants and animals, and the abiotic is the non-living. So that will be the water, the soil and the rock. And then the next little section here is goods and services in the forests or in the biomes. And goods are things like timber and food, plants, rubber, nuts, berries, those type of things that we can physically take from the forest. And services, there's quite a few of these, and you do need to know what these are the nutrient cycle, the tropical rainforest with the leaves falling off the trees and the trees being decomposed, etc. So the forest provides it makes the nutrient cycle work. Then we've got the water cycle, which it has an impact on. because the more trees that we have, we'll have more transpiration from their leaves. So when we've got areas of forest, we actually have more precipitation. It gives us healthy soils, like we said before, because of decomposition of litter. It acts as a carbon sink, so it takes in carbon dioxide and it releases oxygen, and it reduces risk of flooding. So if we've got the roots of the trees and the trees themselves, they will intercept water, which will then, fall to the ground. Some of the water will be taken up by the roots, etc. So that can actually stop flooding. Once you deforest, then you stop all of these services, which are obviously very important for the health of the biomes. And then finally, in this video anyway, we're looking at increased demand. Why is there increased demand for the goods and services in the the goods in the rainforest, I should say? So there are two reasons. One is increased population in the world, and we know that population of the world has increased from in 1900 it was about 1 billion, and now we're looking at 7 billion people. So just the amount of people that are using those goods or need to deforest for other things underneath the ground, etc., that's improved. But the second reason, and possibly the most important one, is increased affluence. Okay, or people have become richer, especially in the BRIC countries, so especially in Brazil, India and China. Okay, people are very rich and they are demanding wood products, they're demanding the land to be used to build on, they're demanding meat. Once you have people becoming more affluent, then they eat more meat, so the meat needs to be produced on ranches, but also land needs to be used to grow crops to feed the cows, which is the main use. We've got palm oil production for energy, we've got minerals underneath the ground like coltan and all different types of minerals that we're using on our mobile phones, fossil fuels, etc., etc. So these two are the biggest reasons why we've got demand for the tropical rainforest. So that is our little introduction to our first topic of people and the biosphere.